Hola chicos, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes a una edición más de David en la nube. Estoy hoy en Lima, pasando unos días después del AWS PeruConf. Y hoy estoy, la verdad es que súper emocionado, súper feliz. I'm super happy to have here Jeff Barr, VP of Evangelism at AWS. So this interview will be on English. I will do my best to create the subtitles for the interview. And Jeff, first of all, I am thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much for joining the AWS community.
Really happy to be here. I've had a wonderful time in Lima this week.
An amazing time. In your keynote, you said that it's the first time in a public speaking scenario, talking about AWS. In the lab, then saw your wife.
That's right. So my wife was actually born here in Lima, and she lived here until she was 16. And then she went to the US to go to college and to meet. She always says she wanted to meet an American guy with blue eyes and blonde hair. So not quite her spec, but nevertheless, we've had a wonderful life together.
Oh, amazing. It's an honor to have you here in Latam. I know that you went to the PeruConf, but next week you're going to attend Community Day in Chile.
That's right. We're leaving just in a few days to head to Santiago.
Amazing opportunity. If you are in Chile and you have chance to attend the AWS Community Day, it will be amazing to have to stay in the keynote that Jeff will be bringing to us. Jeff, a little bit about your experience, your time at AWS. Obviously, a lot of the AWS community knows about you, but maybe there are another part of the people that want to join the AWS community that don't know about yourself. So can you tell about this?
Sure. So I've been in tech since I was really young. I remember following like NASA and the manned space programs when I was 5, 6, 7 years old. And I always enjoyed tech and electronics and computers and building things. And so I naturally gravitated toward computer science. I earned a degree in computer science. I've worked in various kinds of startups and bigger tech companies pretty much my whole life. And what I found most comfortable is being in a role that is partially technical and partly marketing. So, for example, in my work as an evangelist, I work very closely with all of our different teams that are building AWS services. I always try my best to really truly understand the new services. And I don't simply read the documentation or read the marketing docs. I try to really use all the services, understand them, and then I like to share. So understanding and sharing is the basis of my job.
Amazing. And I think understanding and sharing their knowledge is the best way to understand in a deep way and to learn the real thing.
Absolutely. I always think that regardless of the fact that over the last 19 years, I've written well over 3,000 blog posts, but I always think that my whole reputation rests on the quality of the next one that I write. So I'm very insistent on using the service, on being detailed, on being as accurate as possible, and thinking I want to give people the right information. I never want to have the slightest bit of inaccuracy or anything that could be misleading. So it's a unique kind of a role, but very enjoyable. And I kind of think about it kind of like I'm lighting up people's imagination with the possibilities that they can do with the cloud and with different services.
Totally agreed. And in this travel that you shared your knowledge, share your experience talking about obviously AWS, obviously about the new services. How was your experience participating in the AWS Group program?
To me, it was very special. It was so special to be in my wife's country and to kind of think of the journey that took her from here to the US and that brought us back here. That was really special. But I really enjoyed just meeting all of the attendees. And I got to meet and speak with, I'd say, probably several hundred people over the course of the day. We took lots of selfies together, which was a lot of fun. And just the very energetic, very knowledgeable about AWS, very eager to learn any more. Kind of a lot of people getting a pretty, fairly early in their careers. So they're saying everything that I learn now and that I do is going to have a really positive effect in the years to come. So that was wonderful to understand and to appreciate. And it was just, I think, just a really big success. And I'm really impressed with just the scale and the overall just quality of the community I'm finding here.
What's amazing, more than 1,000 attendees. So for my perspective, your work here was inspiring people.
I hope so. So I really like to think like putting some ideas and putting some like maybe kind of starting some creativity in people's brains. And to me, you give them the raw materials. You say, here's some services, here's some facilities, and then really invite them to use their imagination, use their creativity, and just see, what can I build with all of this?
Exactly. I think that AWS is like a full company who offer us like blocks, and our magic as a builder is to connect those blocks and create amazing things.
Exactly. So there's so many different services or building blocks, and then it just opens the door for developers to just think really big and think creatively and just come up with really cool things that the world has never seen before.
Amazing. So for your perspective, what do you believe that these kind of events can bring to the attendees, to the community?
I think to me, one of the things is that it tells each attendee that they're part of a bigger group. And it's very easy when you are working in isolation. You might think, I'm the only person who knows what this is all about. I'm the only person in my neighborhood or my country that maybe even understands this. And then going to a community event and realizing that you're part of something that's big. And there were 900 plus people at my keynote, and I heard that there might have been as many as 2,000 people at the overall conference. Every one of those people would walk away thinking, I'm part of something that is growing and big and full of energy and has a wonderful future.
I have one idea that my wife is not technical. So when I explore something that is very technical and deep, and I discover things, I can, how can I say, share this emotion thing with my wife, for example. But this group of crazy people that are building this crazy stuff like me, it's amazing how this energy can grow a lot.
It absolutely is. And I think one of the great parts of any high quality community is that regardless of where you are on your AWS journey, on your learning journey, you should feel welcome, you should feel at home. That there are some communities I've encountered over the years that are somewhat closed, and they have a very high barrier to getting to be part of the community. The really good, really thriving communities, you show up as you are, you learn what you can, you contribute what you're able to, and you have the option to like progress, but you don't have to come in with a lot of knowledge. You come in just with an open mind and this willingness to learn.
And this is a main thing in the communities. Communities play a crucial role in the AWS ecosystem. How do you see this role importance at the AWS environment?
It's absolutely crucial, and I've always been a very big believer in user groups since my teenage years, when I was lucky enough to be part of one of the first user groups in the world. This was 1976, when personal computers were first getting started. If you go back to your ancient history and you can find those early computers, being part of a user group as a teenager, but being taken seriously by the old people that were 20 or 30, was a big deal for me. And I do remember how welcoming that they were to me, and realized that now in turn it's our job to be welcoming to the next generation. I have a lot of affection for user groups because people show up because they want to. It's not a situation where your boss says, you need to go to this. You go out of your own personal energy and interest, and that really, it kind of filters the attendees. People go there because they really want to be there.
You genuinely want to be part of this group.
Exactly.
In the free time, in the free days, no working, your boss is have to say, hey, God,
So about 10 years ago, one of the most fun things I ever did in my whole time, my 20 plus years at Amazon, I love user groups so much that I decided I was going to basically make a road trip. And I announced on my blog that I would be driving across the entire US.
Okay.
And I booked 3 weeks worth of user group talks across many different cities. I had 15 different talks scheduled across the country. I flew all the way from Seattle to Boston. I rented a little SUV. Mm-hmm. And in the space of 3 weeks, I drove 5,550 miles across the country, met so many users and customers, and spoke at 15 different user groups. One of the just best memories of my trip was my whole time at Amazon has been that special AWS road trip that I did.
That's amazing. Actually, in the Europe region, are making something like the AWS bus?
They're doing the bus tour right now, which is somewhat derivative of what I did. Now, back then, it was really just me. And the best way to do something like that was simply take ownership of the entire trip, from finding the events to deciding on the transportation to, I had this incredibly long checklist of like, these are the things I have to do every day before I like leave the hotel, and make sure that it was a very kind of organized, disciplined 3 weeks, because there were days when I would drive 400 plus miles from city to city, but it was incredibly enjoyable to just meet so many people. To this day, I still get people that will reach out and say, I was at one of your user groups 10 years ago, and I learned this and I did this. And to hear those stories, you hear, okay, people started at some point, and maybe what I told them maybe kind of gave them a little bit of a boost or encouraged them to study or to do something new. That's the reward you get from being an evangelist. There's very long-term ability to help people to progress in their life and in their career.
After story, I have 2 words in my mind: passion for your job and inspiration for people.
Yes.
So it's the I think, and I don't know, you can answer that. Your passion, it's watch other people, look at other people growing in their career, growing using AWS services, growing in their personal life because their jobs can help them.
I think the passion part is actually very important, because the emotions are the strongest way for us to communicate. And I'm genuinely excited by our customers and by what they're doing with AWS, and that every time we launch a new service or a new feature, I see what they're doing right away. I remember in my early days of tech, and this was like in the days of like mainframes, and it was kind of boring. It was all these just kind of gray boxes, and then it was almost described in the most boring way possible. It was like, okay, we have to make this a serious business, so we need to talk about it. We have to make it very boring, so only people that really care about it will talk about it. And I saw that for what it was, and I think part of me thought there has to be a more interesting way to do this, and we can actually make it more exciting, and we can get people's emotions engaged with this and let them see that excitement, that joy of actually building something and getting it to work. And you have that great idea. You say, okay, I can use this service and connect to this, and then use this other piece to connect that all together. You think about it, you study a bit, you make it happen, you get that just like that boost and say, okay, I thought that and I did it and I made that happen.
And then you can share that knowledge to other people, and other people can find other angles of your architecture and say, hey, why we don't use this service or other service?
Right, and there's always somewhere to go. I still remember one of the first times I talked about EC2. So we're talking 15 years ago. At this point, I was on stage, I was describing how you could create your account, and you could create your keys, and you could launch your instance, and you could SSH into that instance. And you kind of go through all the steps, but I never do live demos because there's too many things that might or might not work during the live demo. So I always just like to have slides, but I'm going through and showing the slides, and someone in the audience shouts and says, it works, I did exactly what he said, and I launched an instance. And having the audience validate what I said was such a powerful moment that I still remember, like, you know, I'm standing here and they were like right over there, like in a big audience, but there they were just proclaiming their success and getting that feedback right away, and knowing that this was what made the cloud new and different and better. This idea that you could create your resources right there when you needed them. So that one person who I wish I captured that really validated that entire model.
In my opinion, if you impact one person, your full job has done. You don't need to impact 100, 1,000
That's right.
people. One person per day.
Now, that's actually why I love user groups, is that the user group size is often, it's a size where as you're talking to the room, you can ultimately kind of have a little kind of an eye contact with everybody in the room, and just, you can be speaking directly to each person in that room for just a little bit, and really make that contact, make it a bit personal for you and for them, that you're okay, I'm here not just for this big audience that's just this undifferentiated faces. I can look at each person and give them a little fact, and maybe they're kind of nodding in agreement that they understand. And that is just one of the reasons I still love the user groups.
An amazing opportunity to join a user group. And what advice will you give to the people or local AWS communities that want to strengthen and grow?
So I would say find your user group and not just attend, but find ways to contribute. And The thing about a lot of kind of events is that people don't always understand that there's a lot that happens effectively behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You need to, every month, you might need to find the venue, you might need to get a great speaker, you might need some sponsors, you might need some refreshments. There's a lot of detailed management work that it takes to keep a user group and a community running. If you have nothing else to contribute, but you probably do, figure out a way to become part of the user group and just help with the logistics, clean up afterward, put the chairs away, whatever little thing you can contribute, and make it clear that you are there to be a part of that group. You're not just kind of on the fringe looking in, but you are a part of it in some way. I always encourage people to spend some time connecting and networking, and you're gonna meet people that know more than you, people that know less than you. You've got something to offer them, vice versa. That's your time to take advantage of that.
I understand. So these for people who want to join, that are participants but want to join the organization, something like that. But what about the people who don't know about the user groups, or maybe it's the first time that in the PeruConf, for example, join these amazing people? So what advice you can give to those?
Well, there's an interesting challenge that says, how do these new people really find out that there is a community? And I think for almost every hobby or interest or technology, there is some kind of online community or in-person community that is worth finding and getting connected into. So if people don't know about the idea of user groups, there's going to have to be some level of contact that's going to get things started for them. But I think that when we say you can come as you are to that user group, and no matter if you know nothing about the technology or you think you're the best expert on the continent, you've got something to learn and or to contribute to that community.
And that's another topic about user groups, because there are some senior people, senior developers, senior engineers that say, I can't learn more in a user group, but they're in a space for you. They're in a space for you as a speaker.
That's right.
Or even participating and learn things that the people don't know all. So
the people don't know everything, and one of the things that presenters and potential presenters might miss is, even if something has been presented by someone else in the past, their unique take on that topic is valuable. And I find that when I'm maybe taking some kind of a tour and speaking in a couple different places, I'll try out a couple different ways to describe the same thing, because you never know which description works the best. Exactly. Now, you try it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. One of those, you get it just right, and the audience is like, yeah, that's the way to say it. And then you capture it and say, that is the model, those are the words I'm going to use moving forward. And so that's one of the things you get as a speaker. And I know that everybody aspires at some point to be a conference speaker. They want to do that, but there's a little bit of fear of am I really a speaker or not? It's almost like they think that there's half the world is the speakers, and the other half is the audience, but we're all the same ultimately. Some of us are sitting down and some of us are actually standing up is the only real difference.
Yeah.
I would say it's actually very enjoyable to be a speaker. The people sometimes are a little bit fearful of getting up from the audience, but I kind of look at it as I did all the right things, and I knew I had a particular piece of knowledge. The universe just kind of chose me to be the one to share it, and not mystical or anything like that. It's just, if someone else knew better than me, they'd be the one up there presenting instead. But for this particular topic at this point in time, I'm the one who has the right facts, and I will be happy to share them.
Totally. I am agree with you. About what is your perspective in the current landscape of career opportunities in Latam? Because I think after pandemic, we have a lot of amazing jobs in the tech area. But right now, what do you think about that?
My perspective, both from talking to the user group attendees and from speaking to my colleagues and meeting with some partners and customers the last few days, incredible opportunities. And that if you have cloud skills, if you're developing cloud skills, you're going to have a lot of choices of ways to put them to use. And regardless of the level you're at, if you're a beginner with some skills in 1 or 2 services, and you've got some basic DevOps skills, there's probably a position for you. if you're advanced and you're ready to start building some things with AI services and ML services, I think you've got opportunities. And this is for the long term. This is not some kind of thing that's going to be just popular for a year or two. This is going to be something that you get on the train. It's going to take you forward for the next 5, 10, 20 years of your career.
Totally. A lot of people that actually are studying, I am a professor in a university, the students ask to me, hey David, I'm going to program in the cloud, or what is my next step as an engineer in the cloud? So obviously I have to mention all this landscape that we have in the cloud. Can you mention something about that?
Well, I think there's a lot of different ways that your students and everybody really can participate. So some of them might actually be building cloud applications. Generally, we say they're cloud native applications that are making use of the services and the APIs. There are so many other opportunities for if you're more into like administration and DevOps. There's opportunities to help build pipelines and help get applications deployed. That's an absolutely like wonderful career. Lots of people learning how to do that. There's opportunities on the finance side, which we call FinOps, and understanding the business side. Okay, what is the charging model for different services? How much is it costing? How can I make sure I'm spending my money wisely? How can I fine-tune my use of the services to get the best value from them? I think there's just a lot of different ways that people can kind of get their foot in the water for a cloud career.
Amazing. So actually, a lot of engineers that are working in the cloud want to maybe realign with companies outside their countries. In Latin, it's very common to say, I want to work for a US or Canadian or European company. What is your opinion about this global environment?
This was a really good surprise for me. Of just learning that there seems to be a lot of employment flexibility in Latam right now. And you can work within your own country. You can travel from country to country and work across Latam. You have opportunities to work remotely. And I'd say people are probably going to do more than one of those over the course of their career. You might want to work for a company that's maybe US or Canada based for a while, and you're maybe building up some skills. Maybe you're building up your English language skills, for example. I hear people like to do that and kind of say, well, I want to learn how to be a strong technical and business communicator in something besides my native language. Wonderful thing to do. Yeah. And others say, I really want to help the local industries of my country to succeed. So I'm going to decide to work locally. So I think the number of different options that people have has probably never been bigger.
No, totally agree. So obviously in the communities, we try to train or support the education process for users in the user group. Does AWS have something that we can use to reskill or upskill?
We do. One of the programs that we have is called AWS Educate. And so AWS Educate gives grants to colleges and universities and also to high schools. There are grants for effectively the IT department, so they might be able to run their school IT on AWS. There are grants for professors that are doing research, and there are separate grants for professors that are teaching classes, and then there's direct-to-student grants as well. So all of these have some access to AWS credits to make it more easier and less expensive for customers to get started with AWS. So all of those are, to the best of our ability, we try to make those globally accessible to people all over the world.
Amazing opportunities. So I know that AWS run by the leadership principles. In AWS, we have 16 leadership principles. The most important, I think, for my perspective, and I love that, it's customer obsession. More than 90% of the new services or new features or enhancements are customer driven. So it's a number that I have, and it's like the market number that it's real.
It is real. So there's a lot of different ways. So the idea is that requests and feedback and unmet needs from our customers are going to find their way back often to the general manager or to the vice president who's running a service team. So you can pick any of our services, S3 or Redshift or EC2. Some of those are so big they might have multiple product managers. But those product managers, a big part of their job is simply listening. And so that might be in-person meetings with customers. It might be just going out and kind of reading content that people create. There might be here's my list of features I'd like to see in S3 or EC2. It's going to be receiving emails. It's going to be just making themselves available to the customer base in ways that allow them to take the temperature effectively and say, what are we doing right? What are the new features that our customers are asking for? And then you can never build all the features, but you have to say, what are the most common requests? What are the most things that a lot of people are asking for? And say you either build those features or you say, how do we enable those features? Is sometimes what you have to do, right? You might be able to, instead of building every possible feature, maybe you're building some APIs to allow people to build above those APIs and solve more problems.
Amazing. But in this case, is customer or even community can help in
Absolutely. And a lot of the community leaders will take it upon themselves to start collecting up requirements for a given service and then kind of feeding those up through the chain to get to the point of getting to a service team. The service teams are always receptive to feedback. The challenge can sometimes be just finding the right person to get it to. If all else fails, you can start looking up people on LinkedIn, for example. If you're able to go to like an AWS summit or even to AWS reInvent, a perfect example to network with people. And you can go to the AWS booth and find the owner for S3 and say, hey, I've got this interesting challenge. It's not met by the service. Have you ever thought about this particular thing to add on?
It's an amazing chance to talk with the real people that are building the future at AWS.
So all of those are like the common methods. And as the last resort, if someone has a suggestion and they can't get it anywhere else, find me on LinkedIn and send it to me, and I'll be happy to pass it along. The biggest challenge that you have when you become in a position like me is simply kind of personal scalability and bandwidth. It's wonderful to hear from everybody. It's incredibly difficult to actually make sure you're doing a good job of doing that and replying. Like when you reached out, I got so many people reached out and said, hey, I'd like to meet, and doing your best just to juggle all those and to get all of that scheduled it's a high quality problem, but an interesting challenge.
It's a happy problem.
Yeah, it's definitely a good problem to have.
And amazing. And thank you so much for the chance to talk and understand how we can bring this value to the community.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. At the last, with this constant innovation in the tech landscape, with the cloud obviously that open a new door, what are the specific areas that you think that we have to be aware?
Okay, well, I think there's a lot of different areas that might be interesting, but oddly enough, I think kind of there's two. We could talk about at the most base level and then maybe the most advanced level. So at the most base level, we continue to expand what we call the footprint of AWS.
Okay.
So we build new regions around the world. I think we currently have 31 regions and over 100 availability zones right now. But we also add additional local zones. We've got a local zone here in Lima, and I think we have over 30 local zones already, with the goal of having even more over time. So I love local zones because everything that you know about kind of region-based AWS still applies. So if you have done some training, if you built commands or tools or scripts, if you built runbooks, you can use all of that in local zones as well as you can with regions. Mm-hmm. So you're magnifying the value of your learning. We've got local zones. We have outposts, we have the wavelength zones, which are basically 5G integrated with AWS. So many different ways that you can put your basic knowledge to work. Amazing. So learn once, use in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for the tip. Jeff, I want to finish this video, this vlog, talking a little bit about the AWS Community Day that will be on November the 11th on Monterrey, Mexico. Yeah. So, first of all, you are all invited to join us at the AWS Community Day. It will be an amazing experience. It will be an amazing event, joining with more than 20 speakers, a lot of networking, a lot of connections, a lot of knowledge, sharing knowledge, a lot of friends. And I think that the community are my friends. So it's the safety place to talk and to be a geek, to be a nerd, to talk about technology, to share my experience. So
It sounds fun. I would wish I could be there, but what happens is that as soon as I get back, I'm getting back to Seattle on Sunday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we have 10 hours a day of briefings for reinvent launches, and then Thursday morning, I will be blogging nonstop until the day before reinvent.
It will maybe next year. You're totally invited for next year. I know that it's very complex day because reinvent it's only 2 weeks after.
That's right.
And if you can go to reinvent, it will be another amazing experience.
Would love to meet everybody there.
Yeah, it's a truly amazing experience because you can meet more than, I don't know, 3,000 people per day in your networking.
Easily.
Session.
You know, and I also want to encourage people not to be shy. When I was younger, I was very shy, and it was really hard for me just to go up and talk to people. Yeah. And I know a lot of us tech folks are kind of introverted, and we're really happy just to be quiet. And I'm very happy just to be quiet by myself. But be a little bit bold and go up and say hello and chat with folks. And like if you see someone doing something interesting, I'm sure they would love to talk to you.
That's the main topic that I mentioned to all the people that want to make networking events. Don't be shy. All the people are in this place talking the same language.
Indeed. Indeed, yes.
So I think that it will be an amazing experience. If you can join us on reInvent, I will be presenting on the developer launch, in the community launch, we rename it the booth. Talking a little bit about security, about Gen AI. So I will be more than happy to have you in my presentation.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. But it will be my first time presenting on reInvent. So I'm very excited. I am very happy to join all these amazing speakers that will be on reInvent. And obviously on AWS Community Mexico, I will be very happy to attend all the attendees in the event. So Jeff, I truly appreciate your time. I'm very glad. I'm thrilled to be with you here. Thank you so much for your time.
It's been my pleasure. And I think one of the lessons I like to always show is that it's always worth asking, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I get a lot of requests and I try to satisfy most of them, but you're never gonna get a yes unless it asks. So never be hesitant to ask when you need to do something bold. This has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed speaking with you.
I enjoy a lot. Thanks so much, Jeff.
My pleasure.
I have a gift for you.
Oh, thank you.
I love the stickers, and I know that you love the stickers too. So first I have three different stickers. First, the user group from Monterrey.
Oh, wow. Okay. I don't have any of those. Wonderful. Thank you.
You are you're totally invited to join the day that you want.
I will get there sometime. I will get there sometime for sure.
And I have the Mexican Steve, the Mexican flag and our country for you. So
wonderful. I will trade you for some of the official Jeff stickers.
Amazing.
There you go.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I will
absolutely
put in my laptop right now.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks again.
Thanks again, and keep building, guys.
Keep building.